All right, welcome to another episode of Crestview Leads, where I, Tim Bolduc, the city manager for the city of Crestview, get to talk to anybody I want about anything I want. And we talk a lot of times about the business of the city of Crestview, but also really from a leadership perspective. And so today I'm excited to have a guest with me today who is our mayor, the Honorable JB Whitten. How are you this morning, Mayor?
I'm just anyone.
Just
You
anyone?
can talk to anyone. I'm one of those.
That's it. You're one of the just anyones I want to.
Yeah, you bet.
No, man, I appreciate you coming in. Actually, I said this morning we're actually recording this in the afternoon, and you were gracious enough to come across the street in the middle of a storm and shoot this podcast with us. You had to kind of swim across.
I swam across. You're right.
Right. So I appreciate you doing that on such a short notice. We've been trying to get you in here, but our schedules have been kind of crazy. So. Well, man, we, as you know, Crestview Leads is this. The idea behind this podcast is an opportunity for us to expand on Civic View, which was our first podcast that we did at the city of Crestview for the first couple of years we were here. And this is what we try to do here is really stick to the topic of leadership. And so over the last 5 years, I've had an opportunity to get to know you as a leader and as a friend. It's been really, really cool for me to get to know you. And one of the things that when I started putting together the list of people I wanted to ask on here, and I thought about bringing you on, one of the things I thought about was just how impressed I am, or I guess that would be the right word, with the fact that you just like enough is never enough in the area of being able to give of yourself. So like, you had a full career in the military, and then after that you went on to do something else, and then after that you came here. And so I wanted to talk to you today about like having just a lifetime of leadership and never stopping passing on the things that you know. So does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Everybody knows you around here as the mayor, but you haven't always been the mayor. You've been around a couple of years before that. So
Yeah, as you said, I spent a whole career in the United States Air Force.
yeah.
And what was so good about that, and let me begin by saying I never intended to have a career in the Air Force. In fact, after the first 4 years I got out, thought I knew what I was doing, and got in some trouble financially, and ran back in the Air Force. I said, I'm going to give him another shot for 4 years, and then 30 years later,
You're going to give them another shot.
Yeah, get them. But the neat thing about being in the military, and I brought that with me every job I've had since then, is they never put anybody in any kind of a leadership position without preparing them first. So as you were getting ripe to make a grade, if you were going to become a supervisor for the first time, they would send you to Airman Leadership School.
Right.
So when you made that rank, you wouldn't go in there blindly. You would know some of the pitfalls, that you can't start doing things for all your friends, because of the friends, you have to do things that's right for the mission to get the job done properly. And then as you progress up, if you become mid-management, they send you to the NCO Leadership School, and then the NCO Academy, and then the Senior NCO Academy. So you spend your whole career being prepared. They never put you in a position that you're not prepared for. And in fact, you don't have to go. You can refuse to go to some of those schools, and it will probably end your promotion chances.
Right.
Because who's going to put you in a leadership position if you refuse to become a leader?
Right. If you're not going to invest in yourself, then why would we invest in you? Is kind of the idea. We do that here. We started our Crestview, our lead class is what we call it, which is what we're doing to kind of prepare the next generation of leaders. And we've run 2 different segments, actually 3 total different classes of like 14 to 18 each. And we run them through them, but it's a elective. They don't have to do it. But when you get ready to make a promotion or go through that, if somebody's not interested in investing in themselves, it makes it a lot harder for me to consider them in that advancement.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love the programs we have here. The neat thing about the leadership programs we had in the Air Force, as I graduated from one and as I gained rank, I would be invited to come back and be a guest speaker at another one. So in the NCO Leadership School, I go back and talk to the airmen. NCO Academy, go back and talk to Leadership School. So it was really neat to be able to take what you learned and then bring it back as a guest speaker or sit down sometimes. It would just be a panel discussion. Students would be out there and they would ask you different things. Who did you model yourself under? How did you learn these concepts? All these kind of good things.
That's interesting. I didn't know that, but that is exactly what we do in Lead. So after we finish the first class, we call them Lead alumni, and when we did the second class, we actually brought a select group of them in to sit as a panel to take questions from those individuals that were in the course about what they learned and what they actually got to apply to their lives. And then we brought 2 of them back to be guest speakers at the graduation ceremony. So that's actually pretty cool. I didn't know you guys did that. So when you worked your way up in the military, what was your highest rank, and what did you retire at?
I retired as a Chief Master Sergeant as a rank. My position was a Command Chief Master Sergeant.
Okay.
Which means that you're the chief that's responsible for all the enlisted people in whatever structure you're in. For instance, at a wing level, I was at a numbered Air Force level, and then they go up to, of course, Major Command, and then a Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force. So as a Command Chief, you are responsible to the commanding officer, usually a general, to make sure all the enlisted people are taken care of.
Right. So along that way, and we'll do this as we go through the different sectors of your careers. Who was a leader that stood out to you when you were in the military, maybe early on and then overall? Do you have a couple of them that you can think back and so-and-so was just good at what they did and I wanted to emulate that?
Yeah, I had one, and unfortunately, so many years ago, I don't even remember the guy's name, but I got so impressed by a Chief Master Sergeant. I was a young buck sergeant, and I was supposed to be on the promotion roster to make staff sergeant, and my name didn't appear on the roster. And to most people, it didn't make any difference because you never make it the first time you're on the roster. You have to wait 2 or 3 years. But I needed to be on that roster because I was supposed to be. And so I went to personnel, and everybody blew me off, said, don't worry about it. You can't get promoted anyway. So I went to the chief. The chief went over to personnel. He said, I don't care what your story is. He needs to be on that roster. Right. I got promoted. I got promoted a good 2 years before anybody else.
Wow.
Because that chief took care of me. And so that stood out from then on. The chief is going to be the leader that's going to take care of all of his people. Now, later on in my career, and people get surprised at this when I sat on the panel, and we're at the NCO Academy. And so you get staff sergeants, tech sergeants in there, and they're saying, who impressed you the most to be where you are now? And most of the people on there, the chiefs would say, was Chief Smuckatelli, Chief Joe, whatever,
Right.
And I chose a young major.
Okay.
Because she had such leadership qualities that I couldn't believe. From the day I started working for her as a first sergeant, I pegged her to be a minimum a 1-star general. She tricked me. She became a 3-star general.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The second 3-star female general in the whole military. She was that good. And so what she did that impressed me, and it didn't impress me right away because it put a lot of stress on me, she challenged me to do things that I didn't think I could do. She would say, First Sergeant, it was always, we need to do this,
And we was
me,
JB.
And I said,
right.
And I'm thinking, oh man, I can't do that, I can't. But I went home and I did it.
Yeah.
I worked long hours and I did it. She had more confidence in me than I had in myself, but it caused me to grow. And because of that, she promoted me. She got me to be Chief Master Sergeant the very first election cycle was possible,
wow.
which is very, very hard in the Air Force. But she paid me back for what I did for her, but what she did for me also.
Right.
Right.
I
expanded.
You put the work in and then the work. Yeah, that's fantastic. So we're in as you know, we're in the process of getting our firefighters across the board through the EMT school. And for a long time, Crestview didn't require that. And so a lot of these firefighters have been in the business for 20 years and they've been fighting fires and doing everything they're doing. And now I'm saying to them, you got to go back to school and get this certification that you never thought you would have to get. And so I was having a conversation with a couple of them the other day, and they were telling me how good things were going, how much better the process was going than they thought it would. Like I'm scoring good and I'm getting through it. And I looked at them and I said, if you guys would believe in yourselves half as much as I did, you would have saved yourself a whole lot of stress. And so that's kind of what she did for you. She said, hey, I know what you can accomplish. I'm going to put you in this role and then let you go.
Yeah. But I really like what you just said about education, because some of the presentations, when I go back and be the guest speaker at NCO Academy, I will tell them, you think this is the end of your education, NCO Academy. It never ends.
Right.
It never does. Even when I got out of the military and I became a teacher, I had degrees, but I didn't have teaching credits. I had to go back to school. 50 years old, I had to go back to college. I was teaching during the day and being a student at night. And what a challenge that was.
So why would you, that's a great transition. So your next career was in the school system.
Right.
You said at 50 years old. So at 50 years old, you're retiring from the Air Force. Why on earth would anybody choose to go do what I think is one of the most important jobs? Obviously we can do teaching, but it's also not easy. So why would you choose to take your retirement and go into teaching? And then what you taught, which is also something I want to talk about.
Yeah, I think I regressed my childhood. When I was young, I played teacher.
Okay.
When people were outside playing cowboys and Indians, I was playing teacher. I was teaching my cousins. They hated me. I would sit them down with a math book
And make them figure it out.
That's right. I would teach them algebra. I don't want to know algebra. It was amazing. So I always had that. In my blood. And when I got out, I went to work for a private company. I helped start a new company in Tampa, Florida. And when I went back to the transition people in the Air Force, they interviewed me how things were going. And they got me going about different things. And the lady looked at me and she said, JB, you're in the wrong job. You know that, don't you? I said, what do you mean? She said, when I asked you what you're doing, you spent 5 minutes talking about this new business. You spent the rest of the time talking about being a substitute teacher.
Wow.
She says, you may not know, but that's what you're supposed to be doing. And so I did. I was a substitute. And I did not think I would like it. When people suggested to me, hey, you might want to do this, I said, the first time I go in there and the student gets an attitude with me, I'm afraid I'm just not going to be able to handle it.
Right.
Well, I found out I was wrong, but I didn't know that.
Right.
And so I went ahead after I'd been sub for a while, and I was a sub with some really tough students. I had a combination of those that had behavior problems, those that had learning disabilities. It was a combination. And when I first went in there as a sub, if you'd asked me to stay the first 2 or 3 days, I would have said, no way.
Not going to do it.
Now, about the first or second week, I saw through the behaviors and saw the kids.
Wow.
I saw the kids for the first time, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I love this part of the story. We've spent a lot of time together, and so I've got to hear you driving back and forth to Tallahassee and stuff, and I get to hear your passion about this phase of your career and just the idea, because they were ESC kids.
Absolutely. They were all special ed kids. Yes.
Right, all special education kids. And so, my sister works as an occupational therapist with autistic children, and some of my cousins do that. And just like the passion that you have to be in that role. But once you get past the difficulty, how easy it is to love those kids is always something that stands out to me. And so whenever I hear you talk about that phase, and every time I've ever heard you talk about it, it's always my kids. When I was, you would say, the school system would be trying to do trying to discipline them, and you would say, you'd go to the principal and say, before you discipline my kids, I want to be in the room, right? Do you remember that story? So tell a little bit about that, because we're talking about like different phases of leadership, and for you in particular, it's you excelled in your performance in the military to get to a position of leadership before the normal progression. But then when you got done, you took all those things you learned, and then you went to give those to people who really needed somebody who knew how to fight for them and how to love them and move them along. And so tell about that part where you had to stand up for why you call them your kids.
Yeah. Well, when I first got in the program, just as an ESE teacher, the APs, the assistant principals who render all the discipline, kind of had a cookie cutter approach. If somebody did something wrong, 5 days for this, 10 days for that, no really research what caused the behavior or who even instigated, some kind of confrontation. When I was elevated from just being a teacher to an ESC specialist, that means then I was responsible for all the ESC students in the whole school.
Right.
I had to make sure they were getting the services. And so what I did is I went to the principal and I said to the principal, listen, this cookie cutter approach to discipline for all our kids is not fair.
Doesn't work.
Every kid is different, and every kid has a reason why they do what they do. So I want to be in the room. Anytime the AP is going to give a discipline, I want a consultation with me. Now, they may not take my recommendation, but I want to be able to recommend it based on that particular student.
Yeah.
And the principal backed me on that.
I love
And
that.
told the APs, this is what you're going to do from now on. You're going to bring JB in every time. You have a discipline and consult with him and come up with an agreement.
Yeah, I love that. As the chief in the Air Force, you were responsible for all those troops on the Air Force base, the good stuff they did, the bad stuff they did, making sure everything was in order. And then you move into the school system and you become an advocate for somebody who couldn't necessarily advocate for themselves, and that mediator role. To me it's such a cool progression in leadership, right? So we get positionally, we get in charge of people through positional leadership, and then we earn the respect of them. But then sometimes we're put in a place, or we have an opportunity to serve in a place where not only are we positionally leaders, but they need us and they don't even understand that they need us. And that's kind of what that role was. And so in the school system, was there anybody there that really had an impact on you from a leadership perspective, somebody you were able to grow with or learn from?
Yeah, because an individual, he hired me at one school, and he hired me as ESE teacher, but then he left teaching. He was getting burned out, I think,
Right.
but he went back and they made him a principal of a brand new opening school outside the city limits of Tampa, which is really a pat on the back to tell a principal you're going to open a brand new school. And so he reached out to me and said, I want you to come and work for me as a specialist for the whole school. And I respectfully declined. I said,
Right.
hey, I am so comfortable. It's my comfort zone in this. I love this school. I've been at 8 years, I think, at that time. And so then his mother, who worked at the same school I came back and said, well, he's anteed up everything. He said if you come in, he will let you choose what period you take a break. It doesn't sound like a big thing.
Right.
But really, when you take a break, if you get the first one or the last one, not necessarily good. You might want it in the middle. So you get a break from 3 classes, a break, 3 more classes. And I said, yeah, I appreciate that, but, I really like it here. And then she came back and he said, well, he just said you can handpick all the classes that you teach. You can co-teach with anybody you want. You can pick your own period. I finally said, Uncle.
Fine. I'll do it.
He made me a deal I couldn't resist. And I went there, and I had to say afterwards, it was the best move I ever made.
Yeah.
Because I went from that role of just being a teacher and not having a lot of impact, being a specialist for the whole school. And so that individual had the confidence in me. Again, he hired me for 1 year. Right. When he was the principal. He said, I've got an opening for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, you're probably going to have to leave. And he found a way to keep me after that 1 year. And then he left. And when he got us new school, he brought me with him. And that was a good pat on the back to me.
Yeah, that's exciting. So how many years in the school system?
I spent 12 years, actually 1 year as a sub, which is kind of an internship in a way.
Sure.
And then 11 years full teaching.
Okay, and so then you retire from the school system, and then what?
I didn't want to.
Okay.
Okay. I had promised my wife we would move back to the Panhandle in 2010. And then I was getting a little antsy because I really love teaching. So I went to my wife and said, listen, I'm really not ready to give up teaching. And all the blood drained out of her face. And I said, no, we're going to move. I promise you, we're going to move. I'm just telling them when we get there, I'm not ready to retire. I want to keep teaching. She said, "Oh, I don't care if you keep teaching as long as we move."
As long as we move.
She wanted to be near our kids and our grandkids.
Which were in Niceville. At the
Yeah,
time.
they are Niceville. One was actually in Crestview and one in Niceville.
Okay.
And so that's what we ended up doing. I came here, but Okaloosa County school system, it's much more stable than Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County has 26,000 employees, the school district.
Right.
They have turnover
There's an
day
opening all
after
the
day.
time, yeah.
Okaloosa County has very stable environment in terms of people don't leave a whole lot. I put in for a job here. I got one phone call. Only
wow.
one phone call, and it was someone that I wanted to just teach American history, American government, because I was certified to do that also.
Right.
This was a principal in Destin that wanted me to teach ESE at elementary level. I have to tell you, I am not an elementary teacher.
Right. I couldn't do it for sure.
Every teacher knows
I'd have those kids scattered all over the wall.
That's right.
Yeah.
We know where we need to be.
Right.
And I needed to be at high school. So I declined that one, and I never got another phone call. So, and I will tell you.
They might call after this.
Yeah, well, I didn't have nightmares, but I couldn't sleep well when I first got here. I was going to bed dreaming that someone was going to call me to go back in the classroom. Seriously, I really loved it
So then the next thing is you end up here in Crestview. You come back to the Panhandle. You end up in Crestview. You run for the very complicated office of president of your association, which then connects you to local government and the disaster that can sometimes be. And so eventually you end up running for city council. So how does that work out?
Well, actually, before that, I made a big mistake. I'd only been here 2 years, and I ran for a county-wide race.
Oh yeah, I was going to let you skip that one.
No. I ran for because I learned from that.
Right.
First of all, I didn't understand it. I thought only the people in my district voted for me.
Right.
It was the whole county, and so I tell people I finished fourth place, and there were only 3 people in the race.
Right. That was a tough one for you.
Yeah, it was. But I learned. I learned from that. I learned the key to winning is to be unopposed.
Right. You still haven't gotten the right votes, right? You still haven't gotten the most votes.
So I did when I ran for city council. I don't know why. The Crestview News Bulletin wrote an editorial at that time, and they say, "Why is nobody opposing JB Whitten? Who is he? And why aren't they opposing him?"
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a good. They said, well, they probably trusted him because he's retired. I can't remember if they called me an officer or a colonel from the United States Air Force.
Right.
And I had to call him and say, no. I was not an officer. I was not
Colonel
a colonel.
JB?
No, I was a non-commissioned officer, a chief master sergeant.
Right.
But
not a master chief, which I've tried to call
yes,
you a
that's
couple
true.
times.
Yeah. And but anyway, I was unopposed, and nobody really knows why. And so I did squeak out a victory.
Yeah, he squeaked out a victory against nobody.
Yep.
Right. So then you served 2 terms on the council.
No.
One term.
Just one term.
Okay.
Term. That was enough. Because no, seriously. Because I talk about the highlights of everything else.
Right.
And I always skip over that. I say, I thought it was so great to be in the military, no better than this, and I got teaching. This is the best ever. And then the mayor is the best ever. And people say, why do you skip council? It wasn't the best ever. Because on the council, I was very frustrated.
Right.
And it wasn't frustrated with people. I was frustrated with the form of government that we had. We just could not get done at a good pace. We didn't have the leadership.
Right.
We didn't have the leadership we needed.
Right. And so that was one of the things. I mean, obviously that's how, enter Tim, that's how we had met the first time was you went through this, when you were on the council, you pushed very hard for the change in the form of government. And then at the same time, you're voting to change the form of government from a council mayor form, which means the mayor's over police and fire, and then the council was over the rest. You were going to change from that to a manager form of government. You were running for mayor at the same time. So what was the thought process behind that?
Thought process was, I sure hope they change the government if they elect me.
Right.
Because otherwise I would have been back in a quagmire that it worked well at one time when the city was 8,000 people.
Right.
We were 25,000 people when I was on the council, and I felt like we were kind of spinning our wheels. And I always made it clear, and when I talked to people at town hall meetings, newspaper, radio, television, I never blamed the lack of ability to move as quickly as we should have on people. I blamed it on the form of government that we had.
Right.
Because we didn't have. In the town hall meeting, here's what I told people: imagine having a $55 million company with no CEO, and you're running a company with a board of directors that meets once a month.
Right.
So you would go under in maybe not even 6 months. In 3 months, you would go under.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing. Yeah. And here's what we could have. And so I would go to a town hall meeting and I say, here's what we have, here's what we could have. Which one do you think is better?
Right, right. And so you were successful in that in two ways. You were successful in changing the form of government, and then you were also successful in, we won't say winning the mayor's seat because, once again, you ran unopposed. And so I always tease you that I got more votes than you got.
Yes, you sure did.
Because I had to get voted in and you did not. And so your favorite story is when people walk up to you and say, Mayor, I'm so glad I voted for you, right? Because they didn't vote for you.
No, nobody voted for me. Not even my own wife.
That's good. And nobody voted for you. So then you've been in there, and we've been at it for about 5 years. And so it's been a fun ride. I would say, so far, and we got all kinds of cool things going on. But when you look back over these last 5 years in the business of the city and the things that you've seen happen, what is some of the stuff that you are very proud of, or that you're excited about that we've been able to do over these last 5 years?
I don't believe that we would have had the ability to bring in the businesses that we have under the old form of government.
Yeah, it would be tough.
Yeah. I think you led the way in guiding us, telling us, here's where we ought to go. We got the council on board. We have a true team because the first thing we did, if you remember during the interview process, I asked you, when would you do a strategic planning for this city? Because, again, I brought that out of the military with me, but it's not strictly military devices. Everybody should be focused on where we're going, how do you get there, set your goals, and not just for next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road or whatever. Right. And we did that within the first few months of you coming on board. And the key to that is it wasn't 3 or 4 people sitting in a dark room coming up with a strategic plan.
Right.
You've got to get everybody to buy into it. And now they buy into that plan, they are on the team. And that's what we have now. Yeah. We have a team that knows where we're going and how to get there. Yeah,
I've been on this kick lately about the difference between buy-in and ownership, right? So we went through this whole stretch, professional leadership studying and all this, where we said, you have to get your team's buy-in, and this is the way you get your team's buy-in. And I'm of the opinion now, the older I get and the longer I do this, I'm of this opinion that, well, buy-in is great. We want ownership. Because if you're buying into somebody else's idea, then as soon as that idea doesn't work out, you sell it for the next idea. At least not you in general, but I'm saying that employees and then the citizenry. When we can have them own that original idea, when they're a piece of that equation, I'm not convincing, I never convinced you all to do the things that we're doing. You all said, these are the 5 goals we actually had 10 strategic focus areas. And these are the 4 that we want to be foundational, and these are the 6 that we want to be experiential. That was that first strategic plan. You owned that. That was your plan. I didn't develop a plan and sell it to you.
And that's what I'm saying. That the people were involved in developing it.
So it was theirs. Yeah, absolutely. Well, believe it or not, we're about to run out of time. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes, and I want you to, if you had a chance, which you're going to right now, if you had an opportunity to just speak to young leaders in the community, and you could tell them something that they want to try to focus on as they aspire to be good, strong leaders, what is something that they should develop within themselves to be a good leader? What do you think is necessary to be a good leader?
I think the thing, and I've described it here earlier, is that you need to challenge yourself. Don't be happy with the status quo, what everybody else is doing. And like I told you, it took me a while to develop that myself. Someone else was challenging me before I realized I can really do this. Right. And so when you said earlier that I'm involved in a lot of things, it's because I'm not happy just to sit in an office and sign documents or whatever. Right. I want to find out what is out there that can benefit the city, not benefit me, benefit the city, and I want to take that challenge and bring it to a new level. Yeah. And I do that with buy-in from you The council's involved. I just don't go off on my own and create things. Maybe sometimes I do.
Right. Not too bad. Not too bad. What I love about it, JB, is that, first of all, you inspire me to always, challenge myself and to challenge us as an organization to not just say we can't do that because we don't do it, or because other places don't do it. There's a constant, for you, we're doing great, and I'm so glad we've come this far, but we're not quite there yet. And that's, every day I watch you come in. You're in a part-time kind of position, elected position, which really you could come in and just sign papers all day, but you don't. You meet with me. We meet before the birds are up on Monday morning, and then you meet with your team, and then you go off and you meet with members. Today you had a meeting with Cecil Williams, the new director over the Housing Authority. Not our problem, but you care enough about being a part of the success of that organization that you go meet with them and see how we can help them.
And it's called partnerships.
It's partnerships. Yeah. You even had we had a theme, power and partnerships, one year for that. So, man, I'm so honored to be able to work side by side with you every day. I tell people, people like to talk about the great things going on in Crestview, and I love that. And we do have some very cool things, but we have a great team. You as a mayor you've come in and taken. We came in at the same time, pretty much,
yep.
And you took the piece of that I can't get to, which is all of that public-facing outreach kind of side, and then let me kind of do the operations, help me when I need it, and then the council we've had has been amazing. And so, we're in an election year. You're gonna run for mayor, but right now there are no competitions. So you can see if you can keep your zero competition track record.
Maybe after the podcast there will be.
Maybe there will be. Yeah,
you never know.
I don't know about this guy. No, but I'm looking forward to hopefully at least another 4 years. We were talking about it before, and you said you put your own term limits, and so you're thinking 4 and done. Is that still the thing?
Oh yeah. I think that we have term limits in our Constitution. It's called elections.
Elections, right?
Okay, but personally, I think people ought to impose them. We've got to have new blood coming every now and then, and I feel comfortable. I'm doing very well in what I'm doing.
Oh yeah.
And I think I can hang in there another 4 years, and then if someone else is ready to step at the plate, that'll be good.
Well, I can't wait to see what the next thing is. So yeah, now, you got to start. You got a couple of years, but then you'll have to start planning what is the next thing you take over, right? 4 years from now, you can run for president.
President of what?
The U.S. Now, again, I thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today on our Crestview Leads podcast. We appreciate all of you who watch it or listen to it. We're now on all of our streaming. All of the podcast streaming people or different organizations, and also on you can check us out on Facebook. The City of Crestview has a Facebook page, Instagram page, and on our website. And so again, thank you so much for coming, Mayor Whitten, and until we do it again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right.
All right.